truth will out. I mean, if I heard that once, I heard that like a million times. You know, like I said, I come from a big faith community. You know, so I had a lot of people saying, you know, it'll come out, you know, the truth will set you free. Well, let me tell you what. I checked in the Bible, and there's a lot of troubles in this life. And there is no guarantee that you're going to be set free from prison just because the truth is you're innocent. You know, when you think it can't happen to you, it happens. I know. It can happen. Tonight, any one of you sitting in here could be stopped on your way home, taken out of your car, into a county jail, and that could be the last bit of freedom you've ever had. And it can happen to you.
And I'm so grateful for more and more media attention to these kind of things, because so many people are just not aware of it. And 18 years ago, I would have seen somebody convicted in the newspaper, and I would have thought, they did it. The prosecution has got the evidence, and that's it. And I was very wrong.
But I think in any great grand system like we have, is so big and vast, there's going to be mistakes. There's going to be issues that need to be corrected. It's a matter of people having a moral obligation to want to fix those problems. And I think that's where we are now, and trying to get people to use more of their codes of ethics and morals in dealing with these situations, and not just what a law book says.
That night, my brother shows up, and they'd called him in. He pulls up a chair, sits in front of the holding cell, and he says, I talked to the lead prosecutor and I talked to the two detectives. And they said, if you cooperate fully and confess, they won't seek the death penalty. And I'm not going to repeat the words I was screaming at my brother, but I was doing so as I was reaching through the bars at him. He picks up the metal stool, he slams it down on the floor and screamed at me, they don't arrest people that aren't guilty, and he walks out. Now you can imagine somebody sitting in a bar saying something like that, but your own flesh and blood. But I realized at the time, I see the blind faith that he had in this system, that they don't arrest people that aren't guilty, your own brother. And I still had faith in the system that I took the stand. I confronted the prosecutor, I looked at the jury, I answered the questions. I believed in the system that I'm innocent, they'll find me not guilty. You know, people make mistakes. Why people believe so much in our judiciary when other forms of government are so incompetent, our banking industry, our car industry, you know, our Congress. It's beyond me why people put such faith in the system. And when they've had 143 exonerated death row inmates in this country, and I'm the 114th. And so there's been about 40 of them since me, or 30 of them, in just a short 10 years. But we're the lucky ones. We're the lucky ones that have had outside help. I wasn't exonerated because of the system. I was exonerated in spite of it. I had journalism students. I had newspaper reporters. I had people outside the system that saw the flaws in it and came to my rescue. Not a lot of convicted killers have that. If they are innocent, at least they're alive to prove their innocence someday. Because you can release an innocent man from prison. I'm living proof of that.
Not even an apology. Not even sorry. So that's different, you know. That's one of the things that is so hard for with the people who work with the system. It's really difficult for them to admit that they make a mistake. You know, we are a court system, a criminal system. We don't make a mistake. We make sure that you know, arrest or incarcerate somebody who really guilty. But that's not true. Part of my life is gone.
I believe, well, even though he didn't do this, he would do something down the road, so we're going to put him in there. That's not, you playing with people's lives like that. You get people getting 50 years, 100%, life sentences, they never coming home again. So how can you play with someone's life like that? That's like you playing acting as God. You playing with people's lives, you know, as opposed to really looking at the evidence. But I'll be the first to tell you there's a lot of guilty people in there, you know, but there's innocent people. And they say one wrongful conviction is what? A travesty. So, hey, you know what I'm saying? And we've known from the last, 10 years, look how many people that come off death row, how many people is free, how many people is exonerated. Not only through death row, but...
Is it worth having one wrongfully convicted person and letting, you know, like kind of like the moral question. But, I mean, very little examination is needed to learn that our criminal justice system is imprecise. It's a very big machinery, and there are a lot of moving parts, and people who are innocent sometimes get swept away in the tide. And I mean, I think it's reasonable to expect that, like, McDonald's, with all of its technology, can screw up your cheeseburger every once in a while. And doctors can screw up surgeries, or cars can have malfunctions. Why would we expect the criminal justice system to be infallible? And I think that's why there need to be innocence projects to try to, because if we're going to try to have like a justice system, it's probably helpful to fix the injustices.
We know that mistakes occur in all aspects of our society, in medicine, in accounting, in government, in all aspects of society. And why people choose to trust the government to get every single criminal case right, when we choose not to trust the government to do much of anything else correctly, is beyond me. The system is filled with human beings. Human beings make mistakes, as I said, in all aspects of society. This aspect of society, the criminal justice system, involves politics, it involves emotions, it involves very, very sad and difficult cases where there's pressure to get the cases resolved, and of course mistakes are going to occasionally occur. So yes, there's definitely a problem with innocent people still being in prison.
Most people believe the system works, and they believe that the police are always going to tell the truth, and they believe that the prosecutor has it right all the time. So I've definitely seen the opposite of that happen several times. So I think that's helped me to question everything. So,
whose whole lives have been ruined or affected and changed, and it affects their families as well. And you think about like an arson case or a shaken baby case and something bad, and they don't know how to help themselves. They don't necessarily understand the newest science or understand the chemistry or the medical terminology. They just know they didn't do anything. And so it's different to have more of an open mind. Fingerprints are not foolproof. Ballistics is not foolproof. And I think, you are perhaps not, blindly believing everything that you're being told, and you're questioning it.
The whole system is based on this presumption of innocence. And I just don't think that exists. And I've had my own experiences at the trial level and working on cases as a defense attorney. And, instead of a presumption of innocence, I think there's a presumption of trust, which juries attribute to the prosecutors, and there's a presumption of distrust that goes to the defense. And I think a lot of that is sort of just what socially and in public discourse, what people see on television and what they believe. They see all prosecutors are law and order, all law enforcement is law and order, that work together, that really want to get to the truth of something, and they firmly believe in what they're doing. And that all defense attorneys are scoundrelly, nefarious, cheating weasels who just want to get their client off. And it just is not true.
So often we evaluate cases, and the issue isn't that the person is not innocent. The issue is something procedural, like there's nothing more we can do. And those are the hardest cases, when you feel like deep in your gut, and you just kind of like, you just know, and there's evidence that you could test, or there are fans you could find who would prove that person's innocent, but there would be no utility in doing so because all of their procedural options have been burned out.
There's not a doubt in my mind, there's thousands of more people in there that's wrongfully convicted. Because, the percentage that came home, I promise you, there's probably 10 or 20 more per person in there that's innocent, So I believe there's thousands of more people in there that's innocent, So what are we to do for them?
With a system, mean, once you are convicted, getting things overturned, getting judges to agree your motions for certain things is very, very difficult. Society as a whole thinks that once you are convicted, that's it. And I think we have a long struggle. On average, maybe it takes us 3-4 years once we take on a case to have somebody freed. So in that 3-4 years, they just stay in a prison.
As I sat in prison and I thought to myself that I was the only one who was going through something like this, when Justin took on my case and I remember him, the first time he invited me to the headquarters, to the office. He said, "Come on down, I want you to meet everybody." I walked in and I started looking at the walls and I'm seeing pictures of exonerees and I'm seeing stacks of case files. And then a few months later, I was invited to the Innocence Project Network, the national convention that they hold every year. This year it was in North Carolina. It was my first year. And I walked into this setting just like this. And I was in a room with over 150 exonerees. Men and women who had served 35 years, 30 years, 27, 19, 2 for crimes that they didn't commit. And it tore me apart. I realized how this was so much bigger than me in my situation, that I was not the only one who had gone through something like this, but there were countless of others who have gone through what I went through, and there are thousands of others who are in prison right now, innocent, and hoping and praying to come home. And they're not the only ones praying and hoping. Their families are doing the same thing. Their friends are doing the same thing, because it doesn't just affect the person in prison. It affects the people who love that person. If it wasn't for the Innocence Project, we would not be here today.